Hello and good evening to you all. So I am doing this video in response to a sequence of comments, kind of a discussion, a conversation I was having with one of my subscribers earlier, Helen Ann, and I will say thank you so very much because this was a perfect example of why salvation, the declaration of righteousness in the Old and New Testament has only ever been by the grace of God alone, through faith alone. So, and this is why I always ask for questions, comments, and feedback, because you guys are totally awesome. And obviously, I can, with your assistance, answer other questions or develop other lines of thought that I might not have had on my own. So that's why well, part of the reason I sincerely appreciate all of you, but why I encourage that, because I can obviously do follow-ups. So this came as a result of the video that I most recently did in Genesis, going through chapters 18 and 19, talking about the theophany and Christophany, and it's the story of Lot and Sodom. And so the conversation, again from Helen Ann, thank you so much, said, thank you, Heather, this is fascinating. And I said, I think so too, you're very welcome. And I think the conversation about the theophany and Christophany is super interesting to me, because it's something that's setting up for the New Testament in the Old Testament. And when you get to the New Testament, you can kind of clearly see what was going on that they might not have understood completely in that time, but now with the completed canon we do now. So that whole conversation is fascinating to me. And then the situation with Lot. We know that there was a whole lot going on in multiple ways that should not have been going on in the city before he left, why it was destroyed, and then obviously what happened with his daughters afterwards. They got him drunk, kind of took advantage of him, and Lot and his daughters had children with each other. So the whole situation in that was bad, very, very bad. But and I went to 2 Peter 2 to talk about this, that Lot was declared righteous by God. Lot was a righteous man, which was the whole reason that he was saved. How could Lot be considered righteous when he had all of these problems going on, and he was in the middle of all of these problems, front and center? Maybe not participating in Sodom, but he lived there, and he was found in the gates of the city when the two angels came to the city. Means he was doing business in the city, because that's where business was conducted, at the city gates. So the notation in Genesis 19 of him being at the city gates means that he was actually doing business as on account of living in the city. It was his livelihood. So he was not participating in the sinful aspect there, but he was making his home and his livelihood in this wicked city that God was going to destroy, because the wickedness had reached up to him, and he heard the cries of the wickedness and said, yeah, no, this isn't going to happen anymore. So how is it that he was living amongst this and conducting business and having his livelihood in this city? And the conversation here is he actually, when the townsmen tried to come after the angels, he said, no, you can't have them. Take my virgin daughters instead, which they didn't wind up doing. And then his virgin daughters got him drunk after they left the city and took advantage of him and had children by him, which wound up being two of the people groups that are pitted against Israel, Moab and Ammon. So, like, how could Lot be righteous in the midst of all of this? And Helen Ann makes that point. She says, it still puzzles me how Lot could have been considered a righteous man when he wanted to throw his two virgin daughters to the wolves, to the frenzied, perverted men. I'm trying to get that sorted out. It seems that Lot should have trusted God and his angels to protect them. Absolutely, he should have. But we're told in 2 Peter 2 that Lot was declared righteous. So I'm actually going to reread that part. We know from Genesis 17 that obviously he was righteous because he was saved. But 2 Peter 2 6 says, and I'm going to start in verse 4 like I did in that video. 2 Peter 2:4. For if God spared not the angels that sinned and cast them down to hell and delivered them into the chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them the ensample to those that after should live ungodly, and delivered just Lot, just as in righteous Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them and seeing and hearing vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. So amidst all that, how could Lot be righteous? How are we declared righteous? By our faith, not by our works. And so my response to that was, I mean, obviously, yes, he should have trusted God and the angels, and he shouldn't have tried to handle it on his own by throwing his daughters to the wolves. That should not have happened. But it did, and it is part of the story. And my response was, Noah was a drunk, yet found perfect before God. These people are testaments to faith, and faith alone being the basis for salvation. If they weren't righteous by faith and were instead saved by their works, what hope would we have? And that is specifically what these people are a testament to, that we are all wretched, filthy sinners, but for the grace of God, go us. I mean, that's what it is. But for the grace of God, go I. And that is a testament to the fact that our works, regardless of how good, or in this case, how bad they are never going to play a part of our justification. Faith by the grace of God alone is what justifies us. So this Lot story is a perfect example of that. How many times in the course of that story did Lot screw up? But he was just before God. He was righteous, and God saved him on account of his faith, not because of all of the times he messed up, in spite of all of the times that he messed up. So she says, yes, it really makes sense now and crucially underscores grace. I said, absolutely. It's easy for us to judge them based on their obvious flaws. Read the story and pick it apart and judge it and say, what they did wrong and what they could have done better and what they should or shouldn't have done. It's easy for us to judge them based on their obvious flaws. But when we turn the mirror back on ourselves, any one of us could substitute ourselves in the place of these people in the Bible and have a story to tell and have people read it and pick it apart and tell us what we should have done better or what we did wrong, or look at us and judge us based on that and say, how are you saved? Just like we do to them. Any one of us could change places at any time and have people have that viewpoint of us. And yet we would still be saved. Why? Because of our faith. Not because of what we did or how many times we messed up, because of our faith. But when we turn the mirror back on ourselves, we are no better and deserve no better, and yet we will most certainly get better on account of God's grace. She says, absolutely true. And I said, I'm going to make a separate video later when I get home from work about this thread of comments. It's very awesome, and it's very thought-provoking. So thank you. And I will say thank you again to Helen Ann. But that to me is why we go through these stories, is not to look at what they did wrong and what they shouldn't have done and criticize and judge and pick it apart. It's a testament to the grace of God that regardless of how much people screw up, Noah was a drunk and Lot lived in a city that God destroyed because it was so wicked. David was a murderer, and Peter lacked faith, and Paul killed Christians. And how many other stories in the Bible can you come up with? These people who didn't deserve anything, but they were exalted and placed on earth for a purpose, all because they possessed great faith. So it's very easy for us to look at these and to judge and be critical and be like, well, they should have done this and they should have done that. But they didn't, unfortunately. And how many times in our lives can we say the same thing? We turn that mirror back around on ourselves and be like, I should have done this or I should have done that, and we get down on ourselves. We'll use that as a learning experience and a tool to do better. When you know better, you do better. And every single part of that is a testament to the grace of God. And we use those circumstances to glorify him. Even though we don't deserve it, because of these things, we get it because he loves us and because he's gracious. And the bottom line of that is, by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. That is why. But for the grace of God go I. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. I will be back in the very near future this evening to go through more chapters in either Genesis or Isaiah. I haven't decided yet. Take care. I'll see you guys later.